Think of that cell and how precious it is, that it holds the Prophet's name, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's not an easy thought if you really think about it. Why? Some people don't have that. And some people don't connect to that thought emotionally the way they need to be. So if someone says, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, your heart should come alive. Something should happen to you if you're programmed right. Why? Because this cell engages your whole system. If that cell is not there and doesn't hold that thought connected to the right emotion, where's the rest of your system? Really think about that. So, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So tonight's presentation is about faith and career. And it's a blessing that we have the opportunity to practice our faith and also have a great career. It's an amazing land that we walk over because, subhanAllah, some places you can't practice your faith and have really an amazing career where you can go anywhere. So we are blessed. Just to be walking in this land, you're going to be asked about it. Look at the privileges I gave you. Did you take advantage of it? Did you do the right things? Did you reach the highest pinnacle of education? Everything is provided for you. Why didn't you do it? I gave you the best means to do this. The best opportunities. Did you take yourself to the next level? Or didn't you? So you have to ask yourself, I have an opportunity. Just by merely being born here or standing in this land, it's an opportunity. So let me go into the first part. Faith. What is faith to you? There's a beautiful verse in the Quran. It's in Surah Al-Baqarah. And he says, Alif Lam Mim ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. My God, what a beautiful verse. It's amazing when you have to believe in the unseen. It's a perfect book and a guidance to those who believe. Then it starts giving characteristics about those who believe. Believing what? In the unseen. Go to another verse, and Allah talks about a different group. He says, لا يؤمنون به حتى يروا العذاب الأليم. Wow, completely different. But what's the criteria between the two verses? The criteria, when you look forward, and he says they believe in the unseen, and one believes that they have to see it first. They will not believe in it until they see what? The punishment. They have to see it by the naked eye. Go to Imam Ali alayhi salam and what he says. In a conversation between him and Tha'lib al-Yamani, he says to him, Tha'lib says, هل رأيت ربك يا أمير المؤمنين? Have you seen your Lord? Subhanallah, we cannot see Allah. So you have to believe in the unseen. You have to believe in something that's not tangible, it's not physical. How do you get to that level? Imam Ali answers. He says to him, أَعَبُدُ مَا لَا أَرَى? Do you think I would worship something I cannot see? Then he says, وَكَيْفَ تَرَى? He says, how do you see him? He says to him, لا تراه العيون بمشاهدة العيان. Meaning, the eye does not see him by its direct witnessing. But he says, ولكن تدركه القلوب بحقائق الإيمان. He says, but for sure, he sees it through realities of authentic faith. This is completely different. It's nothing tangible. It's mental aerobics. The person who has to do the deduction aspect and get to such a point of certainty that nothing that is tangible can disprove what he thinks or what she thinks. This is our challenge. Now, when you have faith and you believe in something that's greater than you, this is what happens. I've used this before, and I use this analogy, and I'll get you to a story in the Quran and how this, subhanallah, by a woman. Women are amazing, subhanallah. Our women, subhanallah, and this time, I'm just going to go into that just for a little bit. They are amazing. Why? They hold the banner, not us. We can mold into anything. You can go to class, you can tell them you're Italian, you can tell them you're Spanish, you can do whatever. She's got a flag. She raises it every single day. She cannot get away from it. Their job is a lot harder than ours. And to maintain that is very difficult. It's not easy. So, with that, I'll give you a representation from the Quran, what faith really is. And when you get to a level in your career where you can say to someone, Salamu alaikum, and you're completely okay with your gesture. You identify at the highest level and you don't care who's across from you. That's the confidence you need to have as a person, where it doesn't matter. The situation does not matter. Your principles matter. And the way you apply yourself, it doesn't matter to what situation. You don't care. Not that you don't care for the consequence or the outcome. No, you absolutely care. But you become so amazing in terms of your presentation to other people that you gain your faith and you don't waver from your principles, and you also gain the best results and you influence your environment. That's wisdom. But your faith is the most amazing thing when doing this kind of things. But most of us, we don't want to identify. Why? Because we are scared of the consequence. I'm not going to get the job. Oh my God. I'm not going to get this. I'm not going to get that. The fear overtakes what we do. Especially our own principles. We start to fold. So now, if that's the case, and we have to get to a point, how do you get there? In terms of your own faith, if I were to tell you right now, there are some things you can control, there are some things you can't control, you'd be like, yeah, of course, no problem. Let's make it really evident. Where some things that no one can dispute what we are saying right now. Let's go to that level. So if I were to tell you right now, this is a bottle of water, right? If I were to tell you, this is underneath my control, right? I can do whatever I want with it. I can open it, take a sip. Who's telling me not to? It's underneath my control, right? If I look at a tree outside and the way it's growing, is that underneath my control? No. This is self-evident. My control over this is self-evident. The tree outside, the way it's growing, it's also self-evident. It doesn't need any proof. You don't need proof to actually see the reality. So what does that tell me? There's a power outside of me that I don't have control over. But I do have some control over other things. But what does that also tell me? My control is limited. That's what it tells me. I have some control, but it's limited control. I don't have overall control. That's only to Allah Azza wa Jal. But most of us, like Fir'aun, we get to a point, we say, what? أَلَسْتُ بِرَبِّكُمُ الْأَعْلَى. Where he gets to a point and he says, am I not your highest Lord? Meaning I have absolute ability and control. No way. Can you dictate your own faith and say, these are the rules and regulations, everyone should run by what I want? No. If you think that you can just enter this realm and just give your own opinions about this and say, you know what, the hijab is not in here, I'm sorry, show it to me. What credence do you have? You cannot enter that realm and give your own opinion. You can, no problem. Give me your background. What do you have? Some people, you know what, you ask them, open the Quran, read. They can't. They can't even read. and they want to give their opinion about the Quran. How? How do you have that kind of audacity to do that? How? I won't even dare to open my mouth, not even have a thought that I have an opinion in something like that. You know what you're doing? Do you realize what you're doing? With these kinds of things, please be very careful. Have your opinion, no problem. But when you look at the Quran, say, I don't understand. Don't say this doesn't make sense. There's a difference right there. When you do these things, please be very careful. It's dangerous. So now, with the control aspect, if I have limited control, what do I do with this control? I'm going to go out to you guys really quickly. I'm going to see where your minds are at. What should I do with this control that Allah has given me? It's not a rhetorical question. What should I do with it? Give me some opinions. What do you guys think? And ladies. The first one is always the hardest one to get. They don't want to raise their hand, but everything when it starts, khalas, go. Go ahead, Najd. Beautiful. Khalas, we don't have, mashallah. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Really think about that. Submission. If you think of control, you don't think of submission. What do you think of? What does the West teach us? Go, rise, do, become a lion. What does it tell? That's what it feeds us. It never tells you to submit. Why? Who wants to submit? It's the wrong way. Because actually, when you submit, this is so crucial. When you submit properly, and your head and your forehead hits that ground where your face can't go any lower, it's the most powerful position on the face of this earth. There is nothing more powerful than that position. Imam Ali was not because of his Lord. Imam Ali was because of his sujood. That's his power. That's where he derives his strength from. Why? Because it's where the finite meets the absolute. Think about what I just said. It's where the finite meets the absolute. Meaning, it's when your ability that is limited meets what? The absolute ability. What happens to your ability when you submit? It expands. It doesn't what? Contract. That's the difference. If you just really understand what I said right now, you should automatically just go into sujood, emotionally, mentally. There is nothing more powerful than a person who has faith. Correct faith. Understanding when Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, وَلَا تَرَاهُ الْعُيُونَ بِمُشَاهَدَةِ الْعِيَانِ وَلَكِنْ تُدْرِكُهُ الْقُلُوبِ بِحَقَائِقِ الْإِيمَانِ. The authentic beliefs, authentic, it's very crucial. So on that level, you start understanding, if I submit, I rise. When I submit, I become something different because your heart is going towards a different place. And you get to a point when the Quran, it says, وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ يَحُولُ بَيْنَ الْمَرْءِ وَقَلْبِهِ. Allah is what? In between you and your heart. Imagine that. Imagine you can get to a stage where Allah is in between you and your heart. He's in your thoughts. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ جَعَلَ الذِّكْرِ جِلَاءً لِلْقُلُوبِ. Meaning Allah has created remembrance of Him and enlightenment for the heart. Now, if he reaches this stage, what happens? He says he hears past his deafness, he sees past his blindness, and his heart will obey. This is the most beautiful part. Your heart becomes submissive to Allah's will. This is incredible. Why do you hear past your deafness And why do you see past your blindness? It's insight. You see things that others do not see. That's the difference. The lens you look through, you can pick up 1,000 different cues from the environment, while the other person picks up 1 or 2. Your insight is such at another level that you can change situations at will, at work. So now I'm going to show you now how this comes into play. Me, when I'm mentoring someone, I have 150 people I deal with. And I deal with the directors and the assistant directors. I time myself on the phone as how fast I can flip someone's emotions and perspective. The average right now for me, and I'm trying to knock it down even further, is 5 minutes and 8 seconds. That's my average. So if you get in front of me, be careful. Just joking. But on that level, you start seeing how you can affect just not people. You can affect situations at a whole nother level. And a whole level of a company, where you get someone, and one of the directors, subhanAllah, said this on, we have a call on Saturday. And he says, he actually quotes word for word one of Imam Ali's sayings. And I just die laughing. They can't see me. But why? Because he's being mentored at a different level. So subhanAllah, it's amazing how you can affect not just situations, what people teach. So on that level, if I submit properly, my ability, what? Expands. It doesn't contract. That's the major lesson of faith. I have to believe in something that's greater than me. If I don't, I become what? The greatness. I become absolute. Because I'm dictating laws and regulations on how things should be run. But now ask that person if they can make it on a universal level, they will fall apart. So with that, let's see how control expands through the Quran. Let me give you a story through the Quran. Moses' mother, Fir'aun obviously heard of Wahu, that there's going to be a baby that's going to be born. And he says, I'm going to take care of all the newborns, meaning he's going to slaughter all the newborns. Imagine the example that Allah puts forth. Is there something greater than a connection between a mother and her child? Is there? Think about it. She has to bear that child for 9 months. That pain, that connection that creates is incredible. I think most of the men can never handle something like that anyway. They're too weak. But what I'm saying to you, from here you start understanding how Allah uses certain examples that are just amazing if you really look inside of them. He said, she gets to a point and she knows now he's after the child. She gets commanded. Imagine you're a mother now. And you're told, go to the river. As she's walking up to the river, does she still have control? Can she turn back? Absolutely. Now imagine you get to the bank of the river and you're standing right over the water. Can she still turn back? It's still underneath your control. Now place the basket in the river. And I just want you to think about the moment she releases. Imagine that. That is faith. Because Allah says to you, وَمَكَرُوا وَمَكَرَ اللَّهُ وَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ الْمَاكِرِينَ. Says you plan, but I plan. But what? I'm the best of planners. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, that example, Allah shows you and He draws it out. When you have faith in me and you come towards me, you will go towards righteousness. If you use your ability and that control to come towards me and you submit properly, watch what happens to your ability. So now, the child is floating on the river. Who finds him? And actually, not finds him, but the baby's brought to Fir'aun's house. And Asya, who's the wife, everybody knows the story. But look at the intricacies of what's happening. Fir'aun raises him with his own money, in his own house. Becomes almost like a father figure to him. You want to see planning? You want to think that you're all this? You want to think you can give your opinion on this? Allah brings you right back down to what? Size. Know who you are. If you just play your part right, within what control you have, it's amazing what happens to you. So now when you do this, Allah shows you. And when Musa was actually even told to go towards Fir'aun, he says, I'm scared. Imagine Allah says to you, He goes like, go, I got your back. Imagine your belief is that strong. But what happens to us? There's a magic word called fear. We fear the consequences of our situations, so we fold to what? To the situation, and we let go of our principles. And it happens over and over and over again. And we begin to justify to ourselves. What is going on here? You have to understand that you have to have certain courage that you have to come in with your principles. It's not just about you coming in and saying, I believe in this. Yeah, no problem. Where's your courage when you need to apply? Sometimes when you apply, you have to be passive. Sometimes when you apply, you have to be aggressive. How many of you really believe that aggression is a form of mercy? Think about that. It is. In the right situation, it is. Think of Imam Ali alayhi salam when he's in the middle of a battle. Imagine taking another person's life. Isn't that aggression? But it's done in the right way. In terms of the way to Allah. Everything in the way of Allah is absolute mercy. But you got to see it. There's a lot further discussion there. I don't want to go into it. But when you start understanding this, and your heart becomes connected to that, you know when the Prophet's name is mentioned, your heart should what? Palpitate. Your heart should move. Even a tear should go down your cheek. Why? It's the center of your whole system. It's everything. He's taught you how to submit. That's the difference. Majd told us what? You have to submit, right? Did he come up with the original idea? So think about that. He gave you the connection between the finite and the absolute. He gave you the understanding of how to expand your ability. That's the power of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So now, what are we all going to do tonight when we submit? Is your heart going to move differently? It should. Because if you really realize who you're connecting to at that moment, I swear to you, your heart should be at a different place. Really think about that tonight. When you go to pray, pray for someone, not even for yourself. But pray with that thought process. I am connecting to the absolute ability. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, seek security. Security. How many of us are after security? He says, seek security through patience and certainty. He says, as-sabr wal-yaqeen. Patience has 3 forms. I'm not going to go into that. But certainty, how do you seek that? How are you so secure in certainty? Here's what they say about this particular point. He says, if you are so certain when you submit, imagine this thought process now. When you submit to Allah, you are so certain that He has control over everything that you do. Any situation you are going through, He has absolute control over it. And if you are that certain, how easy is it for Him to remove that obstacle from your way? It's the connection of the heart. Your belief has degrees. You got to understand that. And it fluctuates. Just like the heart fluctuates, your beliefs fluctuate. It's so important to maintain that. So on that level, when you get to a point, and now you have this system, and inshallah you've gotten the best of faith, and when you submit, the ground shakes, because you're so what? Full of iman. And you understand yourself to such a point that your heart is really connected. So now you got the right principle, which is the right thought. You have the right emotion connected to that principle. And when you understand that, you can move mountains because your intention is so directed. So now, let's say you've gotten to that point. Let's go to your career. That is faith. Now imagine when you come up on certain situations of your own career. You have the scarf on. Some of us have huge beards, mashallah, about to wear turbans. You wear your turban to the job interview. But on terms of that level, do you identify or don't you identify? When should you identify? When shouldn't you identify? This, you got to understand, has a lot to do with wisdom. It's not just being black and white. You live in a system that does not accept certain things. If you don't understand the situation and you apply the wrong principle to the situation, you're going to fall apart. Here's what happens with us. And I'm going to give you an equation that you have to understand how to use in terms of applying these principles. Now, once you get the right principles, a lot of us, when we're learning our faith and our religion, you know what we miss? There's another component, application. When to apply, how to apply. This is what we miss. So I'm going to give you the equation of how it works. Number one, you have to have the principle. Let's say protection. One of Allah's names is the protector. You get this principle into your system. You understand your religion. The second part of the principle is application to your environment. One principle, which is internal. Application is still what? It's mental. It's not even on the outside yet. Application has degrees. Meaning that there's a range of how you apply. It's not one or two, black and white, how some people are. On some situations, you have to be black and white. But on some, you have to have a range of understanding. What energy do I apply to the principle to get it right in the right situation? Number three is your situation itself, which is always varying. It's always moving. It doesn't change. If you have the same situation somewhere else, understand at this particular moment, it's different. No matter how similar it is, it's different. So now from here, you understand your principle is one, Your application is many, and the situation is one. That's the equation. Now, here's where we have trouble. If we apply a principle to a situation with the right energy and we get good consequences, we think this is the formula. We think, khalas, this is it. But if you really look, subhanallah, at the imams, sometimes they would rise and sometimes they would pull back. Why? Some situations were threatening. Why did the Prophet ﷺ wait for it to come out with the religion? Why would they meet in secret? Why? The Prophet, I'm the Prophet, I should have been direct. Why did the Prophet, Imam Ali alayhi salam, wait 3 caliphs? Why? He's Imam Ali. You see application? Why did Imam Hussein alayhi salam rise and Imam Hassan step back? Why? Application. This is beautiful. Why? At the end of the day, it's wisdom. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, wisdom is knowledge placed in the right place. That's the difference. When you start seeing this, you start understanding that I cannot just what? Apply black and white. I can't. And imagine when the situation shifts on you, and now you have to shift with it. Imagine in the middle of prayer, the Prophet shifts. Who shifted with him? Where's your belief? Think about that story. Situation is always dynamic. You have to be able to what? Shift with it. If you don't have these principles intact and you apply the right energy to the principle in the right situation, you will fail. This is how we fall apart in terms of when we represent our religion. Let me give you an example of how to apply a principle, the same principle, in different ways, in different situations. Let's take the principle of protection. Let's say there's someone in front of you, and they're what? They're about to get hurt from someone else. But you have the option to warn them, and you care about this person. What would you do? Your obligation at that moment is to warn them. So you have to be aggressive. Protection. Your range of application is what? Aggression. You have to be verbal. You have to take action to warn that person. Let's say give you another scenario. You're in a home, and someone who's a murderer, you're a woman, you have a 5-year-old child, and this guy's notorious for killing kids. Your daughter's hiding in the closet. He's got a gun to your head. And he says to you, where's your child? What do you apply there? Do you become aggressive? You're like, she's in the closet. You say the truth, right? Now it's completely passive. You're applying the principle of protection. How? In a passive manner. Do you see how dynamic that is? You have to get so good at this that when someone comes up to you and you're in a job interview, you're not scared of the consequences. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you know your faith and you can maintain it and also get the job. This is what this equation gives you. It gives you power over the situation without folding your principles. That's the difference. You have to become really wise of your own understanding of your own religion. Which principle to use? That's number one. That's where we first make the first mistake. We use the wrong principle to the situation. Number two, we use the wrong energy of that situation. And number three, we don't understand the situation. Those are the 3 areas you can fall apart in. So whenever you're choosing a career, make sure that it's in line with your akhirah. For me, I was asked many times, psychology, even the closest people to me, why? Why psychology? You're not going to make any money. They take the financial stamp and they tag you with that. Especially the people who are closest to you. They're trying to protect you. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. If they're mentoring you properly, there's nothing wrong with it. You should seek their opinions. Don't become so opinionated in what you do that you cannot see anything either. Believe me, your parents care for you at levels you don't even understand. So from there, I was asked, why psychology? شو بدك بهيك? You don't need it. You're going to get into people's heads and you're going to become a shrink. Just you start hearing thing after thing after thing. Then I swear to you, I opened a hadith book. I was just reading. And I said, Ya Allah, just guide me. I don't know. And the first thing the Prophet says, he says, whenever you are setting goals in this world, connect it to the hereafter. And that was my answer. I said, what can I do with this and what can I do with that? And alhamdulillah, it was the best decision I ever made. Is to follow something that what? SubhanAllah, my mom's calling me. But it's the best thing. Why? Because you truly have to understand what Allah has encoded you for. Understand your own talents. Don't run away and become fearful because I need a dollar sign and I need that security of money. Don't. It's not enough. You're not going to be happy. Because Allah has given you tools to reach your own maximum potential. Not to reach your career. Find out what you're genetically encoded for and what you're passionate about and go after it. Don't wait for people to tell you, you know what, you shouldn't do this. Get a good mentor, guaranteed. With what I do, I'm the vice president of business development for a major corporation. I take a person literally in 2 months from doing 10 sales, 60, 70, 80 sales within one office. I have a track record. Not because of anything. I just know the system, how it works. I know how people think. My company, my own company, just signed Beaumont Hospital. We're talking to Ramshorn, 16 levels in terms of their own locations. How do you get to these people? I'm not boasting. I'm not even the person who signed them. It's the person I trained. So what I'm telling you, you can succeed at all levels. I walk in, I say, Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Everybody respects you afterwards. It's that little moment. But sometimes, you know what? I don't even bring religion into it, especially if there's a woman. I don't shake men's hands just to make it equal. I'm fair. You know what I mean? But it's not that I do that all the time. It's situational. Sometimes I don't even bring religion into the picture at all. I say this is something I stand against. I stand against the oppression of women. I believe putting a woman on a billboard and using her to sell an object is oppression. I don't believe in that. And I swear to you, every single time, every man should think like you. Oh my God. They start praising you. Because they've never heard of this before. I always talk about the handshake, but it's not even about that. It's about applying your principles to the situation in the right manner, where you create a consequence that's beneficial for you, which represents your religion. So you are a talking, walking billboard at the end of the day. That's what happens. With that, your career in this country is crucial. The way you represent your religion is crucial. And a lot of us are scared of money. Don't be. Money is a means to Allah. Imam Ali, and I finish with this. In Nahj al-Balagha, a person comes up to him and he says to him, he says, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I'm a humble person, I'm this, I'm this, I'm that. He says, my brother bought a mansion. He says, tell him, you cannot have faith and have a mansion. Imam Ali alayhi salam answers. He says, in this house, is Allah remembered? He's like, yes. He says, in this house, is Silat al-Rahim adhered to? Meaning the near of kin and maintaining those relationships? He's like, yes. He's like, is dua adhered to? He's like, yes. He says, then this house is a means to Allah. If the money is a means to Allah, go after it. There's nothing wrong with it. If it's the goal, it's a problem. Because you missed the point. The main thing we teach ourselves, money is evil. Stay away from it. It's how you what? Maneuver. It's how you think of it. It's what principles you have. It's what your heart is connected to. There's so many variables there you have to understand. I can like money. There's nothing wrong with it. But if I'm after it as the goal, it's a problem. If I'm after it as a means to Allah, everything is a means to Allah. My words right now, what I'm trying to do is a means to Allah. Everything that I do is a means to Allah. The way I talk, everything about you can be a means to Allah. Let alone money. There's nothing wrong with it. Go after it. Your education, go after that. But be careful with education, please. Because what's happening at the university levels, my God, please get your faith intact. If you don't understand, they're coming after you, one way or another. That real estate that's in your mind, those cells that hold those thoughts, they want some of them. Understand that. And especially the little kids. They're coming after them. The way they market is incredible. I have a marketing company. I understand how it works. So with that, please, with your education, when you get to the university level and what's being projected now, my God, what's happening? So seek your education, but be grounded in your faith. Otherwise, you're going to get lost. So that's number 2. Number 3, be a guide towards others. One person, I was at the university. We're just sitting in class. I walk out with him. For me, those levels, no one knows I know anything about religion. I have no idea. I'm just part of the guys. Yeah, I don't. What's up, man? Yeah. That's what I do. The person comes up to me, we're just walking. But I knew where he was. And he asked me, he's like, where are you going? And I said, SubhanAllah, I was going to pray. I said, I'm going to pray. He's like, really? He's like, there's a prayer hall here? I go, yeah. And we walked, and he's like, can I go with you? I go, sure. We went over there, we started talking. Person got intrigued. If I were to tell you his name now, you wouldn't believe me. SubhanAllah, it's amazing what happens. Just with a conversation. It's amazing what happens. Now he's a great guy, and he had all this in him. But you never know who you're going to come across. You never know. And now I look at him and I say, SubhanAllah. I said, SubhanAllah, what he had inside of him. And he took it, and he's full-fledged. This is the power that you can own. You never know who you can come across. You don't know. And I'm telling you, I get messages sometimes in the middle of the night. They're like, please, I need this, I need that. If I don't answer, my God, the consequences sometimes. It's a burden. It's a weight. But be that guide for other people. Watch yourself. When you're there, take precautions. Be careful with your reputation. Be careful with who you are. But if someone says something to you and tries to kind of do something where it's not to your best interest, in terms of slander, other things, tarnish your reputation. Believe me, that person has something else coming. Do the right thing and watch what Allah is going to do. Allah will flip everything on that person. Just do what you need to do. Take the right positions. In fact, when you're praying in the middle of the night and you get to a point, you're saying, Ya Allah, help my father, my mother, and this person just pops into your mind. Don't get angry at that person. Pray for that person with a sincere heart that Allah guides them. This is how you elevate in your own spirituality. Why? Because you don't let people reside in your own heart. This is too big for that person. That's power. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Any questions, concerns, comments? In terms of career, you can ask me about my career, what I do. It's all open. What's that? Wow, I created a lot of intrigue, huh? I would tell you, but I don't want to say anything. I'd rather not, Alhamdulillah. He's a great person, and it could be a she or he, but I'm still not going to tell you. Alhamdulillah. See, it's always that curiosity. MashaAllah, you're curious. That's a good thing. But don't go too far. But go ahead. Excellent question. With this, I think if you really look at who you are and study who you are, this, number one, should be done by your parents. They should be looking at you at the highest level. And they shouldn't be just projecting onto you what they believe is right. They should be checking you out in terms of how Allah created you. Even identical twins, they're not the same. They like different things. So find your own uniqueness. And how do you find your uniqueness? Allah says, Azza wa Jal, He says, هُوَ الَّذِي يُصَوِّرُكُمْ فِي الْأَرْحَامِ كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. He fashions you in the womb of your mother as He pleases. When He's fashioning you, don't you think He's putting that code inside of you? So you spend 9 months in the womb of your mother becoming unique. Show me 2 trees that are alike. There's nothing there that's like that. There is no person that has lived, is living, and would ever live that's like you. So what makes you so unique? That's that difference. You're going to have a lot of similarities with a lot of people. But there's something about you that's so unique, it's incredible. To go there, you have to what? Dig internally. You follow what Imam Ali alayhi salam says. He says that the answers are inside of you already. But most of us, we don't want to reflect enough to understand what we are genetically encoded for. Because we fear certain things from the outside. We don't want to apply the inside. It's always a refining task. But number one is your parents. Number two is really finding a really good mentor. Studying yourself and how you think. There's 2 parts of your own brain, which is your conscious and your subconscious. The implicit versus the explicit. The implicit mind is programmed not by you. It's programmed by your environment and your parents. And a lot of us, what happens there? We don't have control over that code, and we don't realize that we have certain triggers. And those triggers are dangerous, believe me, sometimes. So you have to study your own coding that you've been programmed with. Decode and reprogram. That's a hard task. But you have to, number 2 is find a good mentor that can help you do that. And with that, it's amazing when you get that kind of person who can show you certain things about you that you don't even know about yourself. So that's number 2. And number 3, just read. Take your mind, look at the Quran, the things that we have are just incredible. Just open up Nahj al-Balagha, please, at the end of it. Those short sayings. I'm telling you, the psychology that's there, it blows my mind. It's incredible. Just read what they have. Read that. Just read. You'll be shocked. Don't read and interpret yourself and think, khalas, I'm Ayatullah now. No. Read to seek understanding so you understand. Then check what you've read. That's why we tell you to go after. Mentors for me? Okay. Again, excellent question in terms of, number one thing I look for is sincerity. Sincerity can cut through anything. You can cut through anyone's heart through sincerity. And just being honest. Luqman was asked, how did you get to this level? In terms of, he was offered prophethood. He was asked, how did you get to this level? He told them 6 things. But the number one thing he told them was what? He says, Sidqul lisan. I have an honest tongue. You know how hard it is for people to have an honest tongue? I always tell people, you want to be truthful? When you speak to people, think of your own intention scrolling on your forehead and the other person can see it. My God, that's scary. That's so scary because it's exposure. That's not an easy thing. Allah doesn't expose us, but the exposure is coming. So that's a scary place. So that's the second thing I look at. Is the person truthful? Sincerity can be detected. You can get to a point where you can detect sincerity. There's gauges that you can get your own heart, you can detect it. You can see it. So with that, that's the second thing I look for. Number 3 is obviously their knowledge and their knowledge base, their logic. For me, I've taken some really good time just to take taking logic classes in universities and, in certain levels in terms of certain studies here. So with that, you start understanding how things work. Work on yourself to get to that level where you can see if there's an equation that fits properly or not. You can deduce so quickly that you can see the person, does what they're saying have substance or not. So that's number 3. And there's other things you can go for, but those are the things I look for. And with that person, and if they have this, subhanAllah, there are certain things that a person, when they have iman, I'm not going to say use this as a kind of a detection, but you can feel it, their aura. You can sense it off them. Don't just use that though. I'm not saying just use that because that's the emotional aspect. But you have to become really good at that where you can sense it. And I'll give you an example. I was just talking to one of the brothers and this person called in for a job interview. And they just happened to call in when I was questioning. So I was talking to them and I was just asking them questions that were just so off the wall. This guy's head, haram, was spinning. I asked them, like, if I were to give you a ring and you had to toss it around the pole that's in front of you, and I gave you distance, you can choose your own distance of how far you can stand away from the pole. And your job relied on you making it around the pole. I go, where would you stand? And this guy's just like, he doesn't know if it's a trick question. He doesn't, but I know just based on his answers, is he a risk taker? Is he lazy? Then after this, you know what happened? He's like, man, this is the strangest interview I've ever been through. I go, because you don't know who you're talking to. I go, you never asked. And he says to me, who am I talking to? And I tell him what I do. And now he's intrigued. He says to me, he's like, so how did I do? I go, you failed miserably. And he says to me, he's like, why? What did I do? Please stop. I said, now you're being real. I go, see the emotions in your voice? I go, this is what I was looking for, your sincerity. I go, it wasn't there before. I go, that's number 1. Number 2, I told him, because of your answers and your hesitations, you are lazy. He's like, how do I work on my work ethic? He's begging me now. Because he was so surprised of what I took from him. But that sincerity wasn't there. You know what he did today? He went through 4 people to get my number. And he called me. He's like, please. He goes, what you did 2 days ago? He goes, I can't believe somebody did that. He goes, can you teach me? And he was hesitating, haram. He didn't know what it. Can you mentor me, please? I said, because you called, I go, here's my number. I go, you took that time to do this. I go, now you're being real. So I advised them. I said, the next time you go to a job interview, be sincere and be truthful, no matter how the consequences that you think, that you perceive are going to happen. So that's the way I choose certain mentors. If I see that sincerity in someone's heart, you can detect it. But it's a science. There's a science to it. I'm not saying just anybody can just do that. It took me a long time to learn a lot of this stuff. But it took me, seriously, about 10 years underground to come out and say, you know what, I can do A, B, C, and D. Work on yourself. And it's amazing what you can do and how you can influence your environment. We'll take one last question. Anybody? Any takers? Go ahead. What is it? Okay, psychology. I have I went to a trade school as well, so I'm certified by the state with 5 different licenses. I'm also certified by Apple in terms of marketing. I run seminars in terms of the company. I'm going to be on stage with Eric Thomas. I don't know if anybody you know who Eric Thomas is. I'm actually going to be on stage with him. I'm going to be one of the presenters there. This guy makes about $50,000 an hour. So if you just so you know, to get to these levels, I'm eternally blessed. Believe me, I can't believe where I'm at. To be honest with you, some of the things and the opportunities that I have, where I get to speak in front of 99%, they're not Muslims at all. And you know how many ahadith I have in my presentation? It's like, it's bombarded, they're all in there, but they've never heard this stuff. It's amazing. So for me, I'm eternally grateful in everything that I do. Why? Because I just had just enough courage at the right time to what? Do the right thing. And I wasn't afraid because I needed a financial stamp on my career. I'm not saying that's not important. It is important. It's very important. But it's not the only thing. So with that, thank you, and I appreciate it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.